I've been working on the reassembly of a 1981 ATC 110, and the engine's together now. I started on the frame in the last video. Pile of parts is going down quite a bit. This video I'm going to install the forks and the tire and axle, and I'll try to get some of the other parts on the side. If you took the bottom races off, we'll start by putting them back on again. There's a metal washer, rubber washer, and here's the actual race itself. Here's where the bearings will fit in. And here's the bearings. There's 21 of these bearings on the bottom and 21 on the top. So we'll put some grease on there to hold them in and to lubricate it. And then we'll stick the bearings on. Okay, there they are. One circle all the way around. I might mention the other race is in the neck on the frame. I never took it out, but according to the manuals, you can punch them out with a wooden stick or a drift punch. But I didn't do that. I just cleaned them up, and I put some grease on it too. So now we're getting ready to put the forks into the frame. Okay, there it is. That's pretty easy. Now we're ready for the top bearing. The race is already in the neck, so we'll start with the ball bearings this time. We'll put them in, grease them in, and then the top race will go on. It'll go on this way. And then this part we'll screw it down, hold it on there, and it'll adjust the tension. It goes down like this. Okay, those bearings are on there now. I only dropped one. I heard it hit the mat though. I was afraid of losing one, so I guess I didn't. So I'll put this other race back on now. And this goes this cover, tighten it down. Here are the parts that go on next. And it's probably a little overkill, I guess, taking it all apart like this, but I wanted to show every single nut and bolt and part that goes on the ATC. That was my goal when I decided to make these videos. So here goes. This lock washer and nut are used to secure this bottom handlebar clamp. Then you put the handlebar in, and then you have this clamp down, and these two regular washers, and then these two bolts. Okay, same thing on the other side. And to hold the assembly on, this triple tree top clamp on and everything, we would need a regular washer, lock washer, bolt, and same thing on the other side. And then in the middle, there's a plain washer, and there's this nut here. Okay, I'll put them on now. I don't need to show that. I'm sure everybody can do it. Okay, the forks and the handlebars are all together now. And here's the hand grips that came with it when I got it, 33 years after it was built, 32 years. So I assume they're original. They kind of look original, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, they just slide on and they're glued on. Well, pretty soon it's going to look like an ATC. I think we can install the engine now, and then we'll do the tire, the front tire and fender. Okay, the engine is installed with these two bolts here and this motor mount. And the order of the parts here is washer, washer, lock washer, and nut. Same thing on the other one. And the same thing on these three bolts here holding the motor mount. The engine is in now. Next I'm going to install the front fender and the front wheel. But I'm not going to use that front fender. I found another one for my parts ATC. It's in a lot better shape without the flames. Here's a fender I'm going to use, and it has a mud flap, the Honda logo on it. I took one of the screws out here to show you what it looks like. Okay, little Phillips head screw, and it's a flanged nut, so when it goes in it doesn't smash the plastic. Okay, and the fender is attached. There's a flanged washer here, and then a little bolt and washer, and goes on like this. Front fender is on now. Next is the front tire and axle. Here on the table are the front wheel hubs and bearing carriers for two ATC 110s. The one in the back is for 1983, and this was for the 1981 that we're working on now. And the 1982s are the same as this one, so they changed in 83. One of the obvious differences is that this one has three lug nuts. There's a lock washer on each one, and lug bolts. The bolts are pressed in at the factory, but sometimes they work their way loose or they get pounded out or something. But they look like this, okay? And there's these splines here that hold them in. There's also a couple of flat ends. I don't know what that's for. It doesn't seem to be used for anything. These parts here in the front row, they're the parts that go inside the hubs. This is the grease seal, and it has a little groove in here that goes in the middle. Here's the bearing. Of course, they'll be packed full of grease when you're working with them. I clean them all out here. This is the separator. It separates the two bearings. Then we have the other bearing and the other grease seal, and the slot goes, inwards. So this is what is actually inside the hub. Okay, so it just fits. When they're in there, you'll see the grease seal is flush here. This is from a different ATC. Okay, so they all have actually the same parts, but they're different sizes. There's two axles here. There's the two separators. There's these two collars. This goes inwards from the outside, and this is what keeps the axles from falling out of the forks. And then they have the castle nuts. I guess the castle like this because if you're in here, you could shoot out these little holes. All right. Oh, another thing that's different is the diameter on this is a lot smaller. It's a little longer too, but not much. But the diameter of the axle is actually smaller, so that'll affect all the parts actually. This spacer here, which corresponds to this spacer here, the outside diameter is the same, but the inside is smaller, so the walls are thicker. And this part here, these I think are the same. Okay, so to install it, put the axle in, spacer, and you'll do this when you actually put it on the ATC. But this collar will go in this way, and the castle nut will go on here. Oh, I'm not showing. We need a couple cotter pins too to go through these holes, so you don't lose these castle nuts. And the same thing on the other side. Now we'll put the hub on the rim, and we'll install it on the ATC. Front wheel's on now. It's starting to look a little like an ATC. And the pile of parts is going down. Looks like I have some brake parts left and some electrical parts, carburetor, exhaust, seat and tank.